Good morning. So this is just going to be a short little video on how to create a histogram using Megastat in Excel. So first thing that we need to do is open up our file, which is I'm going to use frequency distributions here. So you have this file, and you can follow along if you wish, or you can try it on another file. So first thing is find out where our data is. Our data starts in cell A3. This is list prices of real estate in BC. So A3 is my first list price. I'm going to scroll down, and A87 is going to be my last piece of data. So A3 to A87, I'll need to remember that in order to put it in my input dialog box in Megastat. In order to access Megastat, I'm just going to go up here to the menus, and I'm going to slide across until I come to Data. I'm going to click on Data, and then on the far right, you'll see Megastat. So Megastat right there. We're just going to click on that. We're dealing with frequency distribution, so make sure you select frequency distributions. And then make sure you click on quantitative, even though it's highlighted. Clicking on quantitative will bring up the dialog box. Perfect. So our first field here that we have to fill in is our input range. And that's just telling Megastat where is our data. And our data, if you remember, was started in cell A3. So we'll put A3 and then a colon. And it finished at cell A87. So A87 is the last one. So A3 colon A87, that gives us the input range. Make sure you're on equal width intervals. And then once you've got that, we can fill in an interval width and a lower boundary of the first interval if we know what we want to start with. If we don't know what we want to start with, we can leave those blanks. Megastat will create the frequency distribution and the histogram, and then we can edit it from there. Just remember your 2 to the k rule, and you should be roughly plus or minus one class from that. So the 2 to the k rule for 85 pieces of data tells me I should have 7 classes. I've dealt with this file before, so I'm going to make my interval widths 250,000, set my lower boundary at 0, and this is going to create 8 classes for me. So I'm still only one class over the 2 to the k rule. So I'm within my within my limits there. So I've now inputted an interval width at 250,000 and a lower bound of my first interval is 0. And I just make sure histogram is checked off, and then I'll click OK. And we can see Megastat has created a histogram and a proper histogram. All the bars are touching each other. So it does create good histograms. Be careful though, if you go to change your chart style, and by the way, to click, you get any of these boxes, you just click in the histogram itself, the boxes come up. Chart elements, chart style, chart filters. If you go to chart style to get a new style, it's going to change our histogram to a bar chart. So just be forewarned about that. What I might do is I'm just going to leave it like the histogram for right now. So I've got axis titles, chart titles. That's pretty good. Got all the information I need there. But the histogram has been generated using percentage instead of actual frequency, and we can see that from up above. When we click on our histogram, it tells us where it's pulling the information from. So it's using the lower bound as my horizontal axis and percent per class for my vertical axis. So if I want to change that, I want it to grab frequencies instead for my vertical axis. I'm just going to go back down to my histogram, right click, and then I go down to where it says select data, click on that, brings up this wonderful dialog box. I recommend using the edit button here. So I'm going to come over to edit, click on that, and I can see my series values down here. The H is telling me it's pulling from column H. I want it to pull from column G. All I'm going to do is highlight that information and delete it. And then with my cursor still in the series values dialog box, I'll go up to G and I'll grab my frequencies. So just left click, hold down that mouse and drag until you've got all your frequencies. Then you let it go and poof, as you can see, it's now changed our frequencies. So now we're using frequencies instead of percentage. And as I said, we can change the style. If we do change the style, we've got to just be careful because it's going to change from a histogram to an actual bar chart. Don't know why it does that, but it does. Since we changed our vertical axis from percent, undo. Since we changed it from percent to frequencies, make sure you change the title. If you do what I just did and accidentally delete your axis titles, you can always unclick it and re-click it in chart elements and it'll come back. And then we are just going to change this up. And we're going to call this number of listings. And our horizontal axis was listing price. And I'm going to change my actual title from histogram to real estate listings in BC. And there we go. There's my histogram. So that was just a quick little video on how to do a histogram. I will still be doing videos on frequency polygons and cumulative polygons or OGIVs and stem and leaf charts.